The Twsbi Mini is a compact piston filling fountain pen that's offered in a variety of colors and finishes. I have this one in white with rose gold. The bottom finial is rounded and it has a little indent in the middle where there is an injection molding gate. And the top finial features the Twsbi logo inside a red jewel. The profile of the top finial is rose golden colored, which is matching the clip. The clip is a bent metal clip, which is stiff but functional. The cap is opaque and it tapers down to a rose gold colored cap band that has laser engraving reading Twsbi. Mini RG2, this is the second version of the rose gold offering. The first version didn't have quite as durable of a finish. And Taiwan. The cap comes off in one turn, and it reveals a rose gold colored stainless steel nib. I have this one in a fine, but it's available in a variety of other sizes. And on the back, we have a typical black plastic feed. The section starts with a flare-up, which is rose golden colored, and then a tapering portion in white, followed by threads, which are pretty smooth to the touch. And then we have an O-ring, which is there to help secure the cap in place. The barrel is pretty short, and it's cylindrical in shape. It features a diamond cross-hatching pattern, which captures the light nicely. And inside, we can see the filling system. As we work our way back, we have another O-ring, and that's there to help hold the cap when it's posted, followed by threads, which are used to post the cap, and then a little rose gold ring, followed by the piston knob. The piston knob works very smoothly. Rotating it counterclockwise extends the piston down, and there we can see the rod and the housing for the rod are also made out of rose gold, and that's an anodized aluminum piece. Giving the knob a clockwise rotation will bring that piston back up. In the hand, the pen is lightweight and compact. It's suitable for short notes but not long writing sessions. And the section is pretty short. I find that my thumb tends to rest on these threads and O-ring. The cap posts securely with one full rotation, and it makes for a nicely sized fountain pen that's comfortable to use for long writing sessions. In terms of size comparisons, here's the Twsbi Mini, a typical Pilot G2 rollerball pen, and your standard Sharpie. Before we get into the disassembly of the Twsbi Mini, I want to take a moment here to compare it with a few other fountain pens. Up top, we have the Twsbi Vac Mini, which, as the name suggests, is a vacuum filling fountain pen and the miniaturized version of the Vac 700. We can see its overall length is a little bit longer than the Twsbi Mini. However, its ink supply is actually nearly twice that of the piston filler. Next, we have the Pilot E95S, which is one of the most popular pocket-sized fountain pens on the market today, and we can see in its cap form it is about the same length as the Twsbi Mini. And down below we have the Pilot Custom Heritage 92. I pulled this pen in because it is also a piston filler, and it's the most compact piston filler in my collection. We can see it is significantly longer than any of these other pens, but it also isn't marketed as a pocket pen. Let's take a look at these pens with their caps removed. All caps screw to come off with the exception of the E95S, which is a pull-off cap. The E95S and the Custom Heritage 92 both feature 14 karat gold nibs, whereas both of the Twsbis have stainless steel nibs. The E95S also is the only one that has an inlaid nib. The overall length of the Twsbi Mini is a little bit longer than the E95S when it's uncapped. The Vac Mini is then a little bit longer than the Mini, and the Custom Heritage 92, just like it was in its cap form, is significantly longer than any of these other pens. If we take a closer look at the length of the sections, we can see the Custom Heritage 92 has a section that's pretty comparable in length to the Mini. The E95S has a section that tapers all the way back to the middle of the pen, and the Vac Mini has a section that's significantly longer than the Mini, and its section does not taper back, but is fairly uniform in its width. Let's take a look at these pens with their caps posted. The Custom Heritage 92 is a cap that just pushes to post. The Mini has a cap that screws to post in one rotation. The E95S has a cap that pushes to post. And the VAC Mini has a cap that screws to post in 1 3/4 turns. We can see in their posted forms, the Mini is by far the shortest pen of the bunch. The E95S and the VAC Mini are about the same length, and the Custom Heritage 92 is just a little bit longer than the rest. Disassembly the Twsbi Mini, you will need the wrench that came in the package, as well as some gripping material, and I'll be sure to include a link in the description below for this. Cap and screws. And inside we can see there is a gray cap liner, but it's friction fit and not easy to remove, so I'm going to just leave it in place. The section can be unscrewed from the barrel. And then we can push on the back of the feed to get the section removed. Then with our gripping materials, we can grab a hold of the nib and feed and give it a pull. Next, we have the piston assembly. Rotating the piston knob down will reveal 2 flats, which we can grab a hold of with our Twsbi wrench and give it a clockwise turn. Pretty soon that piston unit will come out. And then if you want, you can disassemble this further. Just continue rotating that piston knob. Soon the rod will come out, followed by the knob. And then we have the connector piece with a little sleeve. And at this point, the pen is fully disassembled. To reassemble, I'm going to start with the connector piece and the knob. We're going to screw the knob down until right about where this flange is that has the flats. We'll then grab our rod and install it into the front of the connector piece and give this a rotation. What we're looking for is when the front of this knob is on this flange, the rod to be fully retracted. That looks just about perfect. Grab our barrel, give it a counterclockwise turn to bring the piston back into the barrel, and then we'll screw this down with our Twsbi wrench. And now the piston should be fully functional. Perfect. We'll then take our nib collar and our feed. The feed only fully inserts in one area. It is keyed. So give it a rotation until it goes further in. Then grab our nib, line it up the best you can on the feed and slide it in place. And then if we look closely on the feed, there's a few ribs towards the top which go into slots that are in the section. Line those up and the section should sit perfect. We'll then rotate that back onto our barrel. And lastly, our cap. And now we're ready to ink up. Okay, inking up the Twsbi Mini. Today I selected Monteverde Napa Burgundy, which as the name suggests, it's a deep red that kind of looks like wine. Cap comes off, and I'll also take the cap off the pen. Make sure the piston is extended all the way down, which it already is. Submerge the nib into ink and start screwing up the piston. Usually I'll extend the piston one more time and bring it back up, but that actually looks like a nice full fill. So I'm going to stop there. We'll wipe off the excess ink. Cap up our pen. and our ink bottle. And now we're ready to write. Okay, writing with the Twsbi Mini. Cap unscrews, and I am going to post it. And today we have a rose gold colored stainless steel nib, and it's a fine. And it's a really nicely tuned nib. It's smooth with a little bit of feedback. I will note that I was having some flow issues when I first purchased this pen, and when I looked at it under a loop, I found that the tines were a little bit tight. So I took some brass shims and flossed those tines, and now that I did, it's a very reliable and nicely flowing nib. Our ink is Monteverde. Napa Burgundy. For flex, I'll turn the page. You could push out a little bit of line variation with this pen, but not drastically. And for reverse writing. It's scratchier than the front ways up, but manageable, and the feed kept up pretty nicely. So I would say if you're in a pinch for a thinner line, you could reverse write. So what do I think of the Twsbi Mini? I really love many aspects of this pen. I like this color scheme, the white and the rose gold, and I love the fact that they carried the rose gold on, not only on the finishing of the cap, but on the nib and even on the piston filler. I think that that's really cool. I also like the fact that this pen is so compact and yet it holds a huge ink supply, especially for the size of this pen. I also like the fact that it's a demonstrator and it has these beautiful diamond cutouts that kind of capture the light. It being a demonstrator means not only can you easily check your ink level, but you can also enjoy the color of the ink that you picked just by looking at the pen. The nib on this pen is extremely smooth and a joy to write with, but I will have a few caveats to that statement. I did experience flow issues, as I mentioned, when I first got this pen and I had to floss the tines. I think I'm probably in the minority there. The vast majority of Twsbi nibs that I've tried are very well tuned. But also, I'm not a huge fan of the size of this fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but I kind of just want a wider line. And when I reached out to Twsbi to see if I could get a replacement nib, unfortunately, they don't make any spare rose gold colored nibs. So you could purchase a silver colored one, but I feel like it would kind of be out of sorts. I love the fact that they included a wrench and silicone grease with this pen. That shows me that Twsbi cares about your ability to not only clean, but also maintain this pen. But I do wish that they would have also included bearing grease so you could grease up the piston rod itself and make sure that that also has smooth operation for the lifetime of this pen. In terms of areas where this could be improved, one issue that I have had with this pen over extended use is I find that the cap has a tendency to cross thread on this post. It's not currently doing it, but if I'm in a rush, there you go, there's a cross thread. Now, I don't think that's a big issue, but it's also something that could have been fixed if Twsbi considered having a finer threading on this pen. That being said, I do think it's a great posting cap, and I really like the fact that they have this cap post in one full rotation. That's an improvement over the VAC Mini, which was 1 3/4 turns. That makes it very easy to line up the nib and the clip. I think that the price point of this pen is also maybe a little bit high, especially in today's market with Chinese competitors popping up and offering not only piston fillers, but vacuum fillers for under $30. That makes this little compact piston filler kind of a bad value. In terms of cleaning this pen, I think that it is a flaw in having such a small opening to access the barrel. That makes it really difficult to clean this pen. You could stick a blunt needle syringe inside here and force water through, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. And I find that when I'm changing inks, I tend to just resort to disassembling this pen from the back. So that's maybe a little bit disappointing. And then lastly, probably my biggest gripe with this pen, and this is going to be subjective to individuals, is the design of this section. It's a little bit of a small section, and I don't usually have issues with small sections, but there's also a lot of different textures going on here. You're going from a smooth white section to a threaded rib section to a O-ring. And I find when I'm holding this pen, all of those different textures is just a little bit unsettling. I'm sure I'm in the minority there, but that's just my personal opinion. So for that reason, I'm not sure if I am going to keep this pen. It is one that I've rebought. I used to have the clear version of this, and I couldn't quite recall why I didn't want to keep it. But now that I have this one, I remember. Again, that's a nitpick and probably a preference of mine that a lot of people might not have, but for me, it's just a little bit uncomfortable in the hand. But if you're in the market for an upscale piston filler that's compact and has a huge ink supply, and it's a demonstrator with a reliable nib, I think that this is a great pen to have on your short list. And that just leaves me to say, thank you for watching.